the Mandya Mayangars. Let's talk about Naraka Chaturdashi and that.
So Hyder dies in the middle of the war, Second Anglo-Mysore War in 1782, and after that there is a kind of attempt at an internal coup, which he and actually Purnaya very ably manages and tries to ensure that nothing happens. In fact, when he dies in the middle of the war, it is Purnaya who was such a close confidant that he kept the news of Hyder's death a complete secret, because that could have upset we are right in the middle of a bloody battle with the British. So large chests of treasures would come to Hyder's war camp, ostensibly as if they've been brought from the Caliph from Constantinople. And in one of those large chests, his dead body was also put and taken back to Srirangapatna, because at that time Tipu was awake trying to quell a rebellion in Malabar, which was a thorn in the flesh of both father and son. And so despite all this, he somehow there are hints that even Karim tried to assert himself, that otherwise very sissy kind of person. He also tries to assert, but that is also quelled. And at that time there is an internal rebellion from the royalists, maybe Lakshmi Ammanni, though she manages to do all these conspiracies without even her name coming out. In fact, Mark Wilkes, who goes and interviews her after Tipu's death and so on, she's still alive then, he says, I tried to poke so much and get so much out of her, but this lady would not even open her, her lips are sealed, nothing, no. And the needle of suspicion would never go to her. But probably she was the one who was engineering all of this. So they were a group of people, Anche Shamayya, who was a very trusted, Iyengar courtier of Hyder. All these people want to, instigate a rebellion, a palace coup, but sadly for them, the secret is out overnight. And so at that time, Tipu is in the middle of the Second Anglo-Mysore War, trying to conclude it. Mangalore has been sieged. And the British there are put to the worst of tortures. They're reduced to literally eating rodents and all to stay alive. He intercepts all the supplies, the provisions that are coming either from Bombay or Madras. And at such a time, in the palace, this coup is happening. And he assumes that this is at the behest of all these people, Anche Shamayya. And his nephews are these people, Tirumal Rao and Narayan Rao, who were the Mysore Pradhans, who, took the messages of the Rani to Madras. He tries, of course, Anche Shamayya, all of them are caught and they are executed and all of that. Tirumal Rao and Narayan Rao somehow give a slip and run away to various places. They are temporarily imprisoned, but they somehow find a way out and they manage to go away to the Carnatic region. So since you could not capture the two Iyengar brothers, the wrath of the ruler falls on the entire community of the Mandya Mayangars, who had nothing to do with this whole thing. And these were the Mandya Mayangars who belonged to this Bharadwaj Gotra, someone who came from that lineage, associated very closely with Ramanujacharya when he came all the way to Melkote, when he was persecuted in Tamil Nadu. Now these people, 700 of them, men, women and children, were, according to one story, it is oral history, it's not documented elsewhere, it's references to 700 people being killed are there in the Maharani's letters, but Wilkes and Hayavardhan Rao and all these historians don't talk about it, which is quite strange. So 700 people he's supposed to have asked them to come for a feast at the Lakshmi Narasimha temple in Srirangapatna, and while on the eve of Diwali, on Narak Chaturdashi, and while they are in the middle of eating, the temple doors are closed and elephants are let loose to trample them, almost like what General Dyer did at Jallianwala Bagh, and those who tried to escape were brutally slaughtered. And that memory of that tragedy is there with that community even now after 230-40 years. This happened in 1784, November 1784, exactly. I don't know how many hundreds of years, but even now when the rest of India celebrates Diwali, this community of Mandya Mayangars do not celebrate Diwali. They commemorate it as a day of mourning for their ancestors. So that kind of intergenerational trauma and memories that have lasted, that says something about how orally these memories are transmitted. Maybe 700 is wrong, maybe it was 70,
but it happened.
That is immaterial.
It's oral history, but if even till today that tradition
Yeah.
continues, that means that it must have happened. Otherwise, why would they imagine
And there's so many
such a
people
thing.
today who belong to that family, Smita,
family.
including, of course, some in Mandya and Melkote and Srirangapatna, but even people like Mrs. Tara Gandhi, she belongs to that group. Some long years back when I had spoken about this to her, she said, "Oh, is this the reason? I never knew that,
That we don't celebrate
we don't
Deepavali."
celebrate, but nobody told us why and so on." So, but it has come as a practice. Srinivasan Jain, your friend in the media, so he also supposedly belongs to this on the maternal side or whatever. And these are all the Mandya Mayangars. I don't know whether he celebrates Diwali at all this day or that day, but irrespective of that, so there are people who it's come almost axiomatically without knowing the reason as to why they do this.
Yeah. And the other one, since we are talking about how
Tortures.
Tipu used deception,
Yeah.
and I'll come to the Coorg part. That is another deception one. But let's talk about the Ash Wednesday,
Yes.
the massacre, and that happened. 60,000 were made prisoners and dispatched. Yes, go ahead. Tell me that story.
So here in Mangalore, so the Second Anglo-Mysore War ends in Mangalore with the Treaty of Mangalore, which was probably the last document where an Indian power had an upper hand. So full credit to him for, ending that war with such a unpredictable victory. But while that was being done, they realized that a lot of these Portuguese, bishops and others who were there in Mangalore, whom both Hyder had cultivated quite a bit and kept them. When the British attacked, they collaborated with their co-religionists, and so a lot of money was given to General Matthews, who attacked, Mangalore. So Tipu was very keen to take revenge on the bishops and the clergy of the Christians in Mangalore. Now these people somehow got to know about it. Quickly they hire a ship or something and run away to Goa, their main headquarters. The brunt of that again falls on the poor Canara Christians. These were probably labourers, farmers, some petty workers here and there who had nothing to do with this deception. Just like the poor 700 or whatever number of Iyengars, they had nothing to do. Children couldn't have gone and made treachery against the Sultan. For the entire brunt of that falls on these people, and on Ash Wednesday of 1785, I think. There are varied numbers. Some say 60,000, some go up to 80,000. There are various. There's a Barkur manuscript, which is in Kannada, a very old manuscript, which talks about the same numbers.
Says, and I'm going to read out from this manuscript, which you've quoted here, about 60,000 Christians from South Canara, which is Dakshina Kannada, 20,000 from North Canara, who were holed up, were made to march on foot from there to Srirangapatna. Those captives who were rebellious and protested were indiscriminately hacked or thrown off the cliffs. The Netrakere, which means blood-filled lake. I would think Kere is lake.
Yeah. Huh? You are the Mangalorean.
Then the Netrakere town en route derives its name as per popular oral history from the large pool of blood that was caused by the killing of Christians on their march to Srirangapatna. And before that, what happened was that they were killed. There were 7,000 Christians left behind in Mangalore.
Yeah.
Some of them today have their names of Kolyagars. If you're Konkani speaking and you don't know why your name is Kolyagar, Kole is dried leaves. And they were found aplenty in that region. And in the dry months, they would be kept in buttis. And they would go in baskets, and they would go under it, and they would hide so that they couldn't be caught by Tipu's army and circumcised and converted into Islam. The churches were dismantled.
27 of them.
27 churches. I'm going to come to the churches that were dismantled. They were in Mangalore, Bantwal, Mulki, Kundapura, Honnavar, and the Milagres Church. So Mangaloreans, those who go and see this Mangalore Milagres Church, something that I always do every time I'm there, it was rebuilt. It was, the horrors are just tremendous, which you say. They were On the way, there were pregnant women who were forced to walk on this tortuous march. That is from Mangalore to Srirangapatna.
300 kilometers almost.
300 kilometers, they're made to walk. Pregnant women. Why he made them do this?
Exactly.
I just cannot understand. He could have just converted them in Mangalore and let them stay in Mangalore.
Yeah.
But no, he made them walk. And they're walking through mountainous terrain, through the
Yeah.
ghats.
Yeah.
And the pregnant women developed labor pains. Many of them had to deliver their babies on the side of the roads and resume their march thereafter. Some of the children were allowed, the babies were allowed to be carried. If the children were a burden, the only alternative was to abandon them on the way. Those who died were buried on the way. Most of the corpses with bare hands by the family members, only to be fed later by dogs and jackals. There was no burial given to them. These are Christians who went. To avoid all this, the family sometimes threw the body into the well or the lake on the way. That's why those keres
Yeah. Full of blood.
were full of blood. Now, when this whole Tipu Jayanti thing happened, the Mangalorean Christians were up in arms.
Yeah.
And there were people who were turning around and saying, why are Christians objecting? What
Yeah.
is your problem?
Yeah.
We can understand if Hindus. But this lived memory that people have of the atrocity of Tipu Sultan on the Christians of Mangalore. So sorry for interrupting your train of thought, which I
No,
was
I think
reading out.
you covered the entire thing. And so they were forced to come all the way to Srirangapatna, and then those who did not convert, their lips and noses would be cut off and they would be paraded on donkeys in Srirangapatna. Most of them, epidemics and pandemics broke out, diseases, cholera and smallpox, dysentery. And then they were all holed up in the dungeons where also the British prisoners were. And many of these are British.
In
Srirangapatna.
Those who survived that tortuous journey.
And who didn't convert. So if you converted, then you would be let off or put into a Chela brigade, which Hyder had a Chela brigade of converts, and this man had an Ahmadi brigade, which was of converted Hindus and Christians who
They were
come into it.
castrated. That is also there.
Some young boys. I mean, he had this fetish for that also. Get a lot of young boys, eunuchs, and that I think was a very common this thing of a lot of Islamic rulers. Maybe eunuchs to guard the female.
The concubines.
Zenana 4000. This one, and Hyder was so possessive of the kind of what his women did. There's that even in the Darbar, if there's a dance program, apparently even if it's a beautiful dancer, all his friends and the other courtiers could not look at her, and everyone had to look at him and say how beautiful you are to Hyder. And the poor dancer also could not see anyone else. So there's one instance, Pixoto, who's a Portuguese, this one in his army, he talks about it, that poor dancer, by chance she managed to see or exchange a smile with one of the courtiers, so he was instantly she was stabbed and he was skinned alive. So this kind of
brutality. Click here to watch the full episode.